Welcome everybody to Productivity and Tea for July 2021. I am so excited to be joined by my special guest, Dhruvi. She is definitely one of the first people I think of when I think multi-passionate, and she's got so much to share with us, and I'm really excited to just be able to talk about all things like productivity, mindset, self-care, and everything in between. So I know Dhruvi has done a lot, not just like over the last year, but just in general with her business and graduating and all of that. So I will give her a chance to introduce herself and what she does and what makes her multi-passionate.
Thanks, Kelly. First of all, thank you for having me. I know we've been talking about this chat for a while now, and I was like, let's find a time to do this. Kelly and I have known each other for over a year now, I think, right?
Yeah, I think
We've
so.
met through She Shines, another multi-passionate group, and that's how we got introduced. And right off the bat, Kelly and I picked up the vibe because we were like, I want to do this, I want to do that, but let's talk about productivity and mindset first. And I think we can both agree that juggling multiple things is time consuming, is energy draining, and you have to really pick your battles sometimes and set your priority list as we were just talking about it. So a little bit about myself as we talk about priorities and just juggling multiple things is my name is Dhruvi Shah. I'm also a fashion, beauty, wellness lifestyle blogger and content creator. I'm in the public health space. I work in clinical research right here in the city, and I recently graduated with my master's in public health. I also have a wellness business. It's a clean beauty business with Beauty Counter. And yeah, it takes quite a bit of my time, just all of these things, but I love each and everything that I do very much. And of course, priorities change. So initially, when I had started my blogging, it was more so like a side hustle and as a passion project, like things that I did as a creative outlet. But over time, I've realized that I guess the seeds that I had planted 3 years ago are really fruiting out and blossoming now. And I can see how much it has changed. So as I've graduated and I have more time, I am putting in much more time. The evening hours that I used to spend studying, I get those hours back now. And I'm using that to actually launch it into my own campaigns. I'm working with big businesses. In the past, I've worked with Papa John's, and I just finished working with Rite Aid and just like a couple other companies. And then things that I personally like to do. I have my own passion projects that I release. Like I know how Kelly does this productivity and tea is one of her many projects in D20 theory. I'm currently doing a South Asian series. I'm working with multiple different South Asian brands to showcase where I come from, what my culture is, and many more things. So just a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. There's no way to like concisely like say this is the one thing I do, but that's kind of the point that like it takes a while. And one thing I really caught that I don't think I've heard you say before, because I know we've had lots of conversations before. You may be new to some of the people watching this and here live, but you're, we've chatted quite a few times. But the one thing that stood out to me was you said kind of planting those seeds like 3 years ago, and now they're really starting to grow. And as a very amateur gardener myself, I can definitely relate. Like, even if you're nurturing something, even if you think you know how it's supposed to look this season, like sometimes the plants do whatever they want. They kind of have a mind of their own for being simple simple creatures.
And
So,
sometimes
yeah.
I think of it as a harvest, right? Like sometimes you put in all your effort, but the universe is just telling you the timing's not right. And the farmer could just be feeding and doing everything he's doing, but that year the harvest just not great. So that's the point of this too, right? Like I feel like life as a journey is kind of similar to like a farmer's harvest. Like no matter what you do, sometimes the timing's just not right. That doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong necessarily. Maybe it has to do with timing, maybe it has to do with other things. And that doesn't mean the farmer gives up. He keeps going. He goes back to the first thing and then he starts all over again. He figures out what's not working, what is working. And if he sees that something's worked in the past, he continues to do that. If he sees that what he tried was not working, he finds a new solution. And I feel like that's how life goes too.
Yeah, that's an awesome analogy. I like that. I haven't exactly heard it explained that way, but that makes a whole lot of sense. Awesome. And as I'm like over here reaching for my cup of tea at Productivity and Tea, I forgot to totally ask you what are you drinking today?
I actually have coffee, even though it says tea. I have iced coffee.
That's okay.
I know I'm not much of a tea drinker. I think we've chatted about this, but I love iced coffee. So I have one or two at least in a day. Sadly, I'm a coffee addict.
That's
And
okay.
the
We won't
first
judge.
one to wake up in the morning, like 7 a.m., 7:30. And then evening, I usually will have it if I have a long day ahead. So
Yeah, yeah. No pressure to drink tea. The tea is my thing, and I certainly don't want anybody to like force caffeine on themselves and in the evening, depending on what time zone people are joining from. It might be a little earlier or a little later. Where we are, it's in the 7 o'clock hour, and you don't want to get too hyped up. I've got some nice white peach tea, which sounded perfect for a July evening, and very low caffeine as well. So all good here. But that's one of my favorite little informal questions. It's like, wait a second, we got tea here. What do we drink? So perfect. If anybody else wants to share what they've got in their cup, drop it in the chat, and we'll make sure, maybe we have maybe everybody here's a coffee drinker and I'm the only one that likes tea. That's okay. I'll stand
or
it.
I know of people who don't drink either of those things. So like, what's your go-to drink? I have a friend who only drinks smoothies, and I'm like, good for you. I love smoothies too, but I'm like, I need my daily dose of coffee.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, water's usually what I got if it's not tea. So I can relate to not, drinking all of the things. We do all the things. We don't need to drink all the things.
Oh, I see. Nighttime relaxed tea from Yogi Tea. So when I do need to drink, I do drink tea, but only at nighttime. Sleepy time is my go-to, and also Yogi Tea as well. So good choice, Steph.
Yeah. So my next question for you, knowing that like you've got 1,000 things going on and it must take a lot of effort to stay focused, stay productive, like do everything that you really want to because you're passionate about all of those things. What is kind of your number one, or maybe number two, top three, if it's hard to pick one, practices or tools or systems for your productivity, for you staying focused and organized?
Yeah, so I have a morning routine. Of first thing is my to-do list. I know some people might not agree with that right off the bat. So, well, actually, let's back up a little. My first morning routine is just getting up and not touching my phone. So that in a way for me setting my intention. I don't look at my phone at least 40 minutes to like an hour before. So let's say work is going to start at 8 a.m. When I do wake up at like 6:45, 7 a.m. And some days it's later. Some days I don't have meetings till 9. So like, we can sleep in a little. But like either way, whatever time I'm waking up, 40 minutes to 60 minutes, whatever I feel like it for that day, I kind of just get up in my bed. I don't have to necessarily get up fully. I stretch in bed and just set my intention. Mentally, I make a note of 2 to 3 things that I would like to accomplish. So like today I was like, oh, this is going to be on my list. So that was one of my intentions / goals of the day. And just setting that intention that no matter what's going on my phone or in that email, I don't have to look at it till I set my personal intention. Oftentimes what happens is first thing what we do is we grab our phones and we're like, start scrolling. What's going on? And then even though we woke up differently, we might feel a whole different feeling because we're looking at our phones. We're looking at our phones, we see something go wrong. We're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? We see something. It's fine. We can still put out fires, and 30, 40 minutes later, unless somebody's calling you, of course. Like, don't get me wrong. If somebody's calling you, then pick up your phone. But if this is not work time, this is your time, right? You're waking up, you're doing fine. You'll be time for your work, you'll be time for your coffee, whatever your routine might be. This is basically my sacred time where I set my intention. I don't let my phone kind of control me. Because I realized when I was not doing this, I would often wake up and feel a whole different way after looking at my phone. My entire day could be turned upside down because I looked at something and I didn't like it. Now, if I'm setting my intention, I'm going with it. I'm already feeling good because I've already done that. The second thing I do is make my bed. Every single morning, I make my bed. I don't know if you guys have heard that speech from, I think it was a military man, and he came to a high school. And this speech, if you guys ever need it, I'll send you the YouTube version of it. I'm forgetting his name. But he was talking about how in the army, in the military, in the Navy, they tell them to have a routine, a strict routine. They have to get up and make their bed. To others, it might seem like, oh, what's the point of making that bed? That's one less thing you already have done on your to-do list. you're already starting your day ahead. You've like, it's just like brushing your teeth. For me, it's like make bed and then go brush teeth and then drink a glass of water. So these are the little steps of my routine. After doing this, I feel like I've already accomplished 3 things on my list. And it gives me a head start of the day, because whether I was, let's say I was not feeling good, just by doing these things, I'm like a little bit pumped up. I'm like ready to go. And then the first thing I like to do is I look at my emails, and then I also like to make a to-do list for the day. Don't get me wrong, I have a weekly goals and intentions to-do list. I'm all about that. But I just like to have 2 to 3 goals of that day. When we try to do so many things at the same time, we often get overwhelmed just by looking at our to-do list. So what I do every Sunday night is write down all the things I want to do without judgment. I'm like, okay, these are the things I'm going to accomplish. And then every single day I pull from those lists. It's like, what are the 2, 3 tasks that I can accomplish just for today? And over time, over the week, I go back and I scratch off every single one. Not only have I accomplished those, it's getting me a sense of gratitude and accomplishment that I've actually done these. So that's like the second thing of the day that I keep going. And then my favorite is, you'll probably always see me, a planner is always next to me all the time. And then the other thing is my journal. In the beginning, I've been journaling for now 2 years, I would say 2.5, 2 years. Initially, I was using a journal almost every single day. Since it's a habit for me now, I know exactly when I need to journal. So at night, I will just write down 2 to 3 things that I'm grateful for. It doesn't have to be things, it's the feeling. Oftentimes I've realized, and I've practiced gratitude for a few years now, and I've realized we think gratitude is external. It's not. Gratitude can also be internal. Just like, I'm grateful that I'm alive today. Often things we associate gratitude with, like, I am grateful for this thing in my life. Why? Start with yourself. I'm just grateful to be me. And in that moment, you're not expecting anything more from yourself. It says you're full just by being you. So those are like the little things that I practice that kind of keep me going. And let's say I'm having one of those bad days, I'll practice journaling earlier rather than later on in the day. And that will bring me back to where I need it to be. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can relate to all of those things. With the journaling in particular, I'm more of like I'll call it an as needed journaler. Like, I don't do it every single day,
Yeah.
but I am in tune with myself enough to know, like, when I need to get things out of my head, when I need to write about something, when I need to focus on gratitude specifically. Like, I've tested out enough things in enough situations to know, like, what I need to do when, so that I'm not doing all of the things every single day.
Right, absolutely. And that's what I felt too. When I started, I had to practice, because oftentimes I didn't know where to start from. So people just told me, just write. Whatever you're feeling, just write. And then as you practice more and more, you realize when you need to write and what are the other techniques that you can use. Let's say you don't have your pen and paper and something happened externally, you're outside, you don't have your journal right there with you. There are other techniques over time, as you were saying, you've tested out, you know what to do, that some situations you can just be more mindful of, practice awareness, breathing exercises, whatever you need to. And other situations, you just know that, okay, writing it down will get me out of my thoughts or my head if I need to. So I agree with you. I'm more so like as need based now, but I do like practicing like my 2 to 3 things, whether I'm writing it or not. I just, before going to bed, I'm just like, I'm grateful for 2 to 3 of these things.
Yeah. And Steph said in the comments, making my bed makes me feel like I'm starting my day doing something for me. Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, you guys are a lot better with making your bed than I am, apparently, because that's not my thing. But what I can absolutely relate to is, checking those things, those like kind of easy wins off of your list at the beginning of the day. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this. Like, it might seem silly to put something like making your bed or getting a shower or whatever, like, on your list, but especially on the weekends when my time is a little less structured, then, I mean, I create plenty of structure for myself, but in general, there are fewer things that other people are telling me that I have to do, fewer like external sources of structure, that just for me to get up and feel motivated and feel like I am already off to like a positive start to the day. It's really helpful just to make sure that, first of all, I block time off for things that are important. If I start putting things on my calendar and I know what things I want to get done throughout the day, then, if I started at 9 a.m. and that's when I woke up, for example, I mean, I'm usually up before then, but if that's when I woke up and I started saying like, oh, I'm going to start doing this for an hour and that for an hour. And it's like, if you don't have enough time to like ease into your day or take time for lunch, that's a big one. Like remembering to eat, giving yourself enough time to have this little like these buffer periods in between like the things that really require your time and your energy, then you start to feel like you're behind from the very beginning. So, I think that's kind of, it's about getting yourself off to a good start, but also a lot of it is making sure that you don't get off track throughout the day as well. Like make sure you keep that momentum up because you already started off good. Like keep it going.
Exactly. And I think something you pulled on that was really important is your energy cycle. Understanding that not everybody has the same energy cycle and really digging in throughout your day and asking yourself, well, how did that make me feel? Because sometimes you think, oh, I'll get this done in half an hour, and it does not end up taking half an hour. And because of that, you feel like now you're falling behind in certain things that you have to do. And now all of a sudden your energy's down. You don't feel like doing anything else. And like, so really understanding your energy cycle and giving yourself grace also throughout the day that, hey, there are days where it's not always go, 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 which is why those mini breaks in between are so important. And for me, energy cycle, I'm a night owl. So I work so well when the world is asleep. And I have those like, those ideas that come at 2 a.m. I am that person. I mean, I'm not going to implement those right away, but I'll write them down. And I'm just a creative head at night. Not always, but like I'll have some good ideas in the day too. Don't get me wrong. But like those, and I work later in the hours, but so that's why I'm really knowing that if there's a task that requires your energy, like a lot more energy than other simpler tasks, getting those done when you have more energy will really help you. So for me, laundry. That's the last on my list. I have 2 loads of laundry. I did those. I have to fold them now. That's literally takes up so much of my energy mentally. I'm already drained just thinking about laundry. So I know if I leave that till the end of the day when I might not have enough time, I'm not going to do it. So having those tasks when you have more energy, like doing laundry for me would be more energy conceiving than other people. Now, like Kelly might not feel that way about laundry. She might feel that about dishes or something else because let's be honest.
Both.
And with
Put them
remote
both on
work
my
and
list.
everything, we're still doing household tasks, right? So like really knowing that what's your energy cycle like, and getting those like extra energy oriented tasks which take extra energy for one person versus the other, doing those in the time when you have more energy will help you feel better later on, because then when you have less energy you can do those simple tasks and like journaling. Like for me, I don't have to really think much about it. I know like for the day what I felt good about and just writing it down, what I'm grateful for to start off the next day, and then just brings me peace before going to bed. So that's also very important.
I know we're talking about a lot of like kind of very common things that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, like laundry and just, waking up in your routine. And, most people work in some capacity. So, I mean, especially our group of multi-passionate women, we work at least, 10 hours a day. We've got so many other things going on with side hustles and all that. I think it's also important, especially when you're for women who are, have that side hustle or growing a business, whether it's on the side or growing a business full time, to know like with your energy and when you thrive, like to not try to box yourself into when you think you should be doing certain business related tasks. Like for me, example, when I started, when I realized I wanted to host, virtual retreat, well, I originally thought in-person retreats, but like retreats in general and virtual events and in-person events and all of that, when I'm trying to see what are other people doing, where do I get started? Like, where do I draw some inspiration from? Not just starting completely from scratch on my own. I see a lot of these events start at like 9 a.m., which means if I was the one organizing this event, I'd be getting up a lot earlier than I like to. I'm not really a night owl, but I'm not like, I'll get up early, but I don't like to have to do something or be somewhere super early. So like I'll be up and I'll be dressed and everything by 9, but like to be out the door and like have a full event at like a venue planned out, I'd be drained before the day even started. And I know that's not good for me. So I can't, like, I have to make that decision, even if that seems like that's what works for other people doing similar types of events. I know that's not right for me. So, my self-care camp and Girls with Goals and all that, they don't start before 10 a.m. They do not start before 10
That's
a.m.
how I feel too.
Exact reason. That is a little behind the scenes that I don't know that I've like publicly shared with people of why they don't start any earlier than that, because that's how I am.
Amanda has to go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Thanks for stopping by.
This has been so helpful, and even in half an hour, you've already shifted my perspective on so many things, and I'm so grateful for both of you, and I'm glad that we could connect. Like, I've known you guys since 2018, 2019. Like, you girls aren't going anywhere, and
Yes.
I will reach out
here.
to work
Stay
with you.
connected.
Stay connected. Let us know if you have any
Of
questions.
course. All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. One question, I know we've talked a little bit about motivation here and there. One question I love to ask, because the D20 Theory community loves our colorful quote of the week and our motivational quotes and all that. Do you have a quote that that always speaks to you, that you kind of live by?
Yeah, so a couple. I always think of mind over matter. I think for me, and you know this because I have your D20 Theory box and the word resilient. Resilient is my word for 2021, but I would also say so far in life as well. I think you've known quite a bit about my journey, that I was actually not born here. I was born in India. I moved here in 2006, did middle school, actually went back to India for family reasons, came back, went to 3 different high schools, and then went to college in a totally different state. So I've moved a lot. And I think for me, it was the resiliency and the mind over matter, that no matter what hurdle comes next, because let's be honest, like when I came from India to America, I had a culture shock. I was like in a totally different country. Even between changing states, I was in a whole different environment in the first high school, then the second high school, and the third high school. So for me, it's always been like, if you put your mind to something and you're willing to not give up, then those results will kind of like show itself over time. Sometimes it could be right away, sometimes it could be over time, but again, it has to deal with resiliency and mind over matter, right? So that's something I live by all the time. But a quote that has been really speaking to me recently is actually up here. I'll read it out. Behind every success, it's effort. Behind every effort, it's passion. Behind every passion is someone with the courage to try. And you know this, and you probably, as soon as you heard it, you're probably shaking your head, because I think it's courage that really changes your perspective, right? Like whether you want to start something new, whether you want to enter a new community, whether you want to do anything, it takes that little bit of courage. Doesn't need a lot, just takes that little bit of courage to start something new.
Yeah, definitely. And I think courage goes hand in hand with like confidence. And that's something I hear so much about from the women in this community, that confidence is difficult because, branching out, trying something new, not everybody is just ready to kind of jump right in, run full force, like at their goals. Not everybody is quite that fearless. Like, kudos to you if you are. But I have not always been that way. It's taken a lot of work to grow that confidence in myself. And I've had conversations with a lot of women that to the point where I know that people listening to this can relate to that like, it does take that courage. And the reason it takes courage is because we're not 100% confident. We don't know everything from the very beginning. And that's okay. That's pretty much where we all start. But to acknowledge that, and to have something like a quote like that right in front of you, like in front of your laptop, so that when the things stress you out, when you realize you need to learn a new skill today, because that's just the curveball that was thrown at you, it's right there to remind you. And
I have it right in front of me, and I have the giant resilience sticker sitting there too. I'm sure you've seen it. So
yeah.
It's on days where you just feel like, I can't do this. You just look right up and it's right there. So if anybody ever needs that extra little bit of courage or something, put up your favorite quote or your inspirational person that you always look up to, and just so you can look up and have that little reminder that this is why I'm doing it. And knowing your why is so important. I also have a giant sticky note of just, I have a couple whys, but why? Because each why is different, right? In your personal
Yeah.
life, in your professional life, in your business, in your side hustle. And I have those right there on days where I need that extra reminder. This is why I'm doing it.
Definitely. And while we're on the topic of like motivation, and of course I mentioned the colorful quote of the week. That's the Instagram series with the quotes that I do each week. I know you're big on Instagram as well. You've got a lot going on there. What accounts do you follow for your like inspiration? Who inspires you on Instagram that we can all give a follow to?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, D20 Theory, if you're already not following it. I love Kelly's weekly reminders and quotes that she shares. She also shares them in her newsletter. So they're always great to open up and just see. And it's like, oh, okay, I needed that today. I also follow Boss Babe Inc. So that's like another motivational account. I give them a follow, and then every time when I'm like kind of scrolling and I see that motivation, I always save the quotes because every time when I need it, I can look back in my saved category. She Shines is great. I love podcaster and author and writer Jay Shetty. I don't know if you guys have know his book, Think Like a Monk. That's a really inspirational book, and he does a lot of like YouTube content as well as video content. So he's a really good follow as well as his wife, who's a nutritional and wellness coach. Her name is Radhi, and she's also one of my like inspiration. She shares a lot about vulnerability, to be authentic, and especially in a social media space like this today where people are just sharing like sales, marketing, here's that. I think sometimes we forget that there's a human that's behind all those accounts, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes showing a little bit about your personal life can get you connected with people a lot better than you just like, posting like something else that's a picture. And that's a good reminder for me too, because again, every time when I connect with somebody and I share a personal thing, I get 10 or 20 more messages than when I'm just sharing like an outfit. And that's a good reminder that, hey, at the end of the day, we're human and it's okay to be authentic and just be real out there sometimes. So those are some really good accounts to follow.
Yeah, definitely. And I will definitely ask you to like send them to me on Instagram when we're done here, because I want to make sure that I get them right. I don't know if I know how to spell all of them, and I want to make sure I'm tagging the right people when I'm shouting them out later. So just note to self, if you could send them over my way.
Yeah, and I have so many more that I probably can't think of.
I know
But I'll send you some of my favorites. I'll have their saved things. So I'll send you those as well.
Perfect. Yeah, they this is like one of the hardest questions to be like, choose your top one. Everybody's like, no, that's why I go on Instagram, because I need the inspiration of these 35 different people on a daily basis.
Right.
And it's true. We get it from a lot of places. There's no like one person that kind of gives us everything we need, and that's okay.
And hey, sometimes a friend even shares a personal story, and that sparks creativity or motivation. And usually when something like that crosses my feed, I save it for another day, because I'm just like, I want to revisit that and be like, I'm not the only one that feels that way, or I'm not the only one starting a business, or I'm not the only one pursuing this new hobby or skill. So creativity comes in all forms and shapes. So always make sure you can revisit it every time you are, in need of motivation.
Absolutely. So my next question was, what is one way that you have invested in yourself recently? Whether that's like practicing self-care or, something related to your goals that you like, a big purchase that it doesn't have to be literally a financial investment, but something that you changed or invested in or like set time aside for recently that you can kind of pat yourself on the back for. You're like, this was good, this made a difference, I invested in myself and something that's important to me.
Yeah, well, last year during quarantine is when I got my business coach, and that's when we connected too. So that was a really good investment, because I had been blogging for a year or so, and I was kind of confused as to what direction I wanted to take my blog. And again, you can always change. That's something that I tell everybody. If something is not working for you in that time, people tell you, well, you started with this, why are you doing this now? Don't listen. You do what you want to do, and you can always pivot your path. And I think, again, that goes back to my whole life perspective. It's just like, for me, I started as a bio major and I stuck with bio because that was something I, like I wanted to do. But I had classmates who started with bio and then went different routes because it didn't mean anything to them anymore. Or maybe it did and they didn't want to pursue that because there was something else that sparked more of an interest. So that's how I think of blogging as well. When I started just as a fashion blogger. And over time, I realized that for me, clean beauty and wellness is just as important. And as I evolved and got my master's in public health, I wanted to educate not just in my community, but more on my social media page as well. So I incorporated wellness with public health. So as Kelly probably knows, I share a lot about public health, especially with COVID and the pandemic. And that's not only public health. We have other public health issues as well, that are going on, women's health, mental health. So having a business coach really two for us, having those two coaches help us was a really nice investment for me, not just to get me more of a direction, but also creativity wise, as I got connected with Kelly and so many different women from that community that now I can look up to, and as well as reach out to if I have a question or need feedback. I can always go to those women. I also think just joining communities that you want to be in, spaces you want to be in, is also a good investment. Taking some time to connect with those women, because if this is something you want to pursue and somebody's already doing it, you use that, talk to them, network with them. So I think I still continue to do that to this day. I still invest in just spending time with people who I know I can learn from, who I can grow from, as well as who I can give back to. I think that's just as important, right? So
and that is the whole point of community. You kind of just hit the nail on the head there. I think that community is probably one of the things that I overlooked for way too long. I have very much a mindset of I'm independent, I can do this all, I'll figure it out myself. And that attitude has gotten me really far to a point. But then I'm always reminded of that quote that if you want to go fast, go along, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's, you can go further when you have people that support you and you're supporting them. And even though you're giving something, you're giving back and you're sharing your knowledge and your expertise and even mentoring people along the way, you're getting more than you're giving because you're part of such a larger group. And sometimes that's a hard concept to just to understand until you're a part of it. And for some people that might come very, very naturally and might be super obvious. Those people are probably more extroverts and I'm an introvert. And that might be why it took me a little longer to embrace the community aspect. But now I can't really imagine it any other way. That's it's such a brand value of D20 theory now that it amazes me that the amount that I and the brand together have grown since the very beginning, to really be able to get clear on things like those values and stick to them. And that's part of the reason that, events like Productivity and Tea are not exactly like podcasts. When people ask me what is Productivity and Tea, I usually start by saying, well, it's kind of like a podcast because there's a chat, an interview, designed to the event, but it's more because we're here on video and because I also invite the community in to listen, to ask questions, to give their feedback, and not just about what kind of tea you're drinking, but whatever you feel called to share, because it's really about community. And it's, even though it's primarily you and me having this conversation, it feels so much more fun just having the energy of people around us and knowing that there's, we are in real time sharing this with other women.
And for me, I think just even seeing a picture or the faces or a chat pop up, I think that interactive feature is just so much more connectiveness of the community aspect than rather us having a talk over a podcast, right? It's I wouldn't even be seeing your face. And I think that facial expressions makes so much of a difference. Seeing somebody smile, even if it's on Zoom, like it's a whole different perspective than on the podcast side. I mean, I love podcasts, and like I think they serve a different purpose as well. But for me, the video and the picture and then the chat interaction, I value those much more.
Yeah. And the kind of the great thing is that for the women who are either planning to watch the recording of this, or they're introduced to D20 theory a month from now and they weren't here at this point, but they want to catch up on like the recordings, you can put things like these videos end up on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and listen to them. Like you don't have to actually watch. If that's not your style, like listen to it like it's a podcast, but you have the option to watch it. So it's better, I think, if I had to say so. I like it better. I think it's a fun structure that we have here.
I agree.
But with all that being said, we are running out of time here. So I want to make sure I give you a chance to share whatever you have, going on, or how you'd like people to connect with you. Of course, for everybody who registered, all the links and information that you shared with me, Dhruvi, before we got on today, I will make sure that everybody gets those links to connect with you. But if you'd like to share in real time, definitely you have the floor. Shameless plug, whatever you want to share you have going on.
Yeah. Well, right now, as I mentioned, I'm doing a summer series on the fashion side. So if you want to learn a little bit about the South Asian culture and what that entails and just what's going on, and you want to check it out, you can feel free to connect with me on Instagram. Besides that, I'm doing my 1-year launch of my beauty counter business. So if anybody's interested at all in clean beauty, all the products are clean. I think Kelly has used some of our products as well. So it's a clean beauty movement. Everything is clean, as in less plastic. Everything is the antitoxins. So all the toxins. And if you just want to learn a little bit more about what I'm talking about, feel free to connect with me as well. We'll do a little bit of a consultation, which is always free, and we can talk a little bit more about that. If you're interested and want to know what public health is and ever have been thinking to be in that field, feel free to message me. I love just sharing about how I got involved in my public health journey, because I was a bio major and I kind of pivoted again, as I was saying, into public health. So I'm always open to share a little bit more about my journey. I've actually done a few podcasts too. If anybody's interested, you can check them out on my Instagram. They're linked in my bio, and all the fun stuff is over there too.
Awesome. And I'll just be clear, I'm not knocking podcasts. I've been on a few myself.
Same here.
I do really enjoy them. I think they're a lot of fun, and it's really cool to connect with like new audiences and new people and have different, conversations from different perspectives than you might usually have. But just for productivity and tea, I do my own thing. Yeah, no, I'll make sure everybody has the links for that. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And we are right at time here, so I will wrap things up. Thank you again so much, Dhruvi, for being my guest tonight. Thank you for everybody who joined us live, and I'm excited for everybody who's going to watch the recordings to get all of this great knowledge. There's so many like nuggets of information. I'm gonna go rewatch it myself to pull out all the highlights and yeah, just kind of get it from a different perspective. I kind of do that on my own with all the events, because as somebody kind of guiding conversations and moderating and all of that, I feel like I absorb like 90% of everything that's going on, but then I always get that last little 10% when I like rewatch or re-listen to it. And so, hey, even if you're watching live, there is a benefit for anything you might have missed, because there's so much gold in these conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was so nice to chat, Steph and Rihanna. If you ever have any questions or just need an input on something, feel free to message me. And I know Kelly feels the same way. We're always here to help, always here to support. And anybody else who's watching as well, I would love to connect with all of you and stay connected.
Yes, thank you so much. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.